Jake watched the alien ship disappear into the black void of space. The captain's hands gripped the metal rail of his ship's bridge as the last hope for peaceful contact vanished before his eyes. 3 hours ago, they had been talking to them. They seemed curious about humans and their small colony ships. Then something changed. The alien voice had turned cold and distant. Species classification, unworthy. Council decision, final. After that, nothing but silence. The ship had powered up its engines and left without another word. "Captain, we're receiving the same message on all frequencies," said Lisa Carter from her station. She was the ship's expert on alien life, and Jake could hear the sadness in her voice. "They're broadcasting it to everyone in this sector, warning all ships to avoid contact with humans." Jake turned away from the window. This was the 47th time. 47 different alien races had made contact with humans over the past 50 years. Every single meeting had ended the same way. First came curiosity, then conversation, then sudden rejection. It was like the entire galaxy had decided that humans were not worth knowing. "Sir, we have a message from Colonial Command," called out Rick Barnes from the communications desk. Rick was young, maybe 25, but he had been with Jake's crew for 3 years. The kid had never seen a successful first contact mission. None of them had. "Put it through," Jake said. The face of Admiral Kate appeared on the main screen. Her gray hair was pulled back tight, and her blue eyes looked tired. Kate had been fighting this war of rejection for longer than anyone. She had watched humanity reach out to the stars, only to be pushed away again and again. "Jake, I need you to return to New Terra immediately," Kate said. "We've got new intelligence. The situation is worse than we thought." 3 days later, Jake sat in a meeting room on New Terra, humanity's largest colony world. Around the table were the best minds in human space. Dr. Sam, who studied how the constant rejection was affecting human minds. Dr. Ben Taylor, who searched ancient ruins for clues about other civilizations. Commander Rick Barnes, who had come with Jake from the ship. And Admiral Kate, who led humanity's efforts to find their place among the stars. "Show them what we found," Kate said to her intelligence officer. The woman activated a holographic display. Images of alien ships and space stations appeared in the air above the table. "We've been monitoring alien communications for months. What we discovered changes everything." Jake leaned forward. "What did you find?" "They're organized," the officer said. "All of them. Every alien race that has rejected us is part of something called the Galactic Preservation Accord. They're not just avoiding us, Jake. They're actively working together to keep us isolated." Sam shook his head. "That's impossible. Some of these races are enemies with each other. The Enda have been fighting border wars for decades." "Not when it comes to humans," the officer replied. "We intercepted a message from a commander to a fleet captain. They were sharing information about human ship movements and warning each other about our expansion plans." Ben Taylor spoke up. "I've been studying the ancient ruins on 7 different worlds. There are patterns in the writing, symbols that appear across multiple civilizations. They all tell stories about a dangerous species that once threatened the galaxy." "What kind of stories?" Jake asked. "Legends about conquerors who came from a small world and spread across the stars like fire. They called them the Fire Bearers. According to the ruins, these beings were destroyed by an alliance of every other intelligent species in the galaxy." Kate stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the city of New Terra stretched to the horizon. Millions of humans lived here, working and raising families, unaware that the entire galaxy considered them a threat. "The psychological reports are getting worse," she said without turning around. "Suicide rates on Earth have tripled in the past year. People are losing hope." Sam nodded sadly. "Children are growing up knowing that no matter how far humanity travels, we'll always be alone. It's creating a trauma that affects our entire species." "But why?" Rick asked. What did we ever do to them? We've never attacked anyone. We've always approached them peacefully. The intelligence officer brought up another display. This one showed human colonies scattered across 12 star systems. Each one was marked with red warning symbols. According to the intercepts, they're not afraid of what we've done. They're afraid of what we might do. Jake studied the map. Humanity had been expanding slowly and carefully. They terraformed empty worlds and built small cities. They had never taken anything from the aliens or threatened their territory. Yet somehow, the mere existence of humans was seen as a danger. "There's something else," Ben said quietly. "The ruins mention specific details about the fire bearers. Their size, their appearance, their way of thinking. Everything matches humans perfectly." The room fell silent. Jake could hear the hum of the building's power systems and the distant sound of traffic from the city below. "Are you saying we're related to these fire bearers?" Sam asked. "I'm saying the galaxy thinks we are," Ben replied. "Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. They believe humans are the descendants of the species that once dominated them. They're not rejecting us because of what we might become. They're rejecting us because of what they think we already are." Kate turned back to face the group. Her expression was hard, like a soldier preparing for battle. "We have confirmation from 6 different sources. The Galactic Preservation Accord isn't just about keeping us isolated. Their ultimate goal is to make sure humanity never becomes strong enough to threaten them." "What does that mean?" Jake asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. "It means they're not content to just ignore us," Kate said. "They're planning to eliminate us entirely. Every human colony, every ship, every trace of our species. They want to finish what their ancestors started with the fire bearers." Jake felt a cold chill run down his spine. Humanity had spent centuries reaching for the stars, dreaming of the day they would join a galactic community. Instead, they had discovered that the community was already there, organized and united by one common goal: making sure humans never survived long enough to become a threat. Outside the window, the sun was setting over New Terra. Soon, this world and all the others like it might be nothing but empty space and dead rock, unless humanity found a way to change the game entirely. Ben Taylor knelt in the dirt, brushing sand away from ancient stone symbols. The ruins on 442B were older than anything humans had ever discovered. The writing carved into the walls told stories that made his hands shake as he translated them. "Amy, come look at this," he called to his partner. Dr. Amy Foster was studying samples from a nearby dig site. She had been working with Ben for 5 years, searching dead worlds for clues about the galaxy's past. Amy walked over and crouched beside him. "What did you find?" Ben pointed to a series of symbols carved deep into the stone. "This section talks about the fire bearers, but it's different from the other ruins we've studied. This isn't just a legend or a warning. This is a historical record." He had been studying the alien writing systems for years. Each race used different symbols, but the stories were always the same. A dangerous species had once ruled the galaxy. They had been destroyed by an alliance of other races who feared their power. "What does it say?" Amy asked. Ben translated slowly, making sure he understood each symbol correctly. "The fire bearers came from a world of water and stone. They walked on 2 legs and used tools made of metal. They could learn any skill and adapt to any environment. They spread across the stars like flames across dry grass." Amy frowned. That could describe any intelligent species. "Keep listening," Ben said. He moved to the next section of symbols. The fire bearers were builders and destroyers. They could create wonders that lasted forever or weapons that could crack worlds in half. They fought each other as often as they fought others, but when threatened from outside, they became as one people. Amy's eyes widened. "Ben, that sounds like humans," Ben finished. "But there's more. The fire bearers had a strange way of thinking. They could see solutions that others missed. They would take risks that seemed impossible. Other races called them mad, but their madness often led to great victories. Ben stood up and walked to another wall. The symbols here were harder to read, worn down by millions of years of wind and sand. This part describes what they looked like. Medium height, varied skin colors, hair that grew from their heads. They had small eyes compared to most species, but they could see in different types of light. Amy was taking pictures of everything with her scanner. The physical description matches humans perfectly, but that's impossible. These ruins are millions of years old. The genetic samples we found last month, Ben said suddenly. Have you finished analyzing them? Amy nodded. I was going to tell you tonight. The DNA fragments we recovered from the ruins contain genetic markers that are compatible with human DNA. Not identical, but close enough to suggest a common ancestor. Ben felt his heart racing. Show me the data. They returned to their camp where Amy had set up her laboratory equipment. She pulled up the genetic analysis on her computer screen. The data showed 2 DNA samples side by side. One was from the ancient ruins. The other was human. Look at these sections, Amy said, pointing to highlighted areas on the screen. The base genetic structure is almost identical. If I didn't know better, I'd say these samples came from the same species, just separated by millions of years of evolution. Ben stared at the screen. What if they did? Over the next 3 months, Ben and Amy traveled to 7 different worlds. Each one contained ruins with similar stories about the fire bearers. Each one provided more genetic evidence linking the ancient species to modern humans. On the 4th world, they found something that changed everything. Danny, their engineer, was scanning the ruins with deep-ground sensors when he discovered a hidden chamber beneath the main structure. There's something down there, Danny said, studying his equipment readings. Metal objects still intact after all this time. They spent 2 days carefully digging their way into the chamber. What they found inside made them question everything they thought they knew about human history. The chamber contained machines. Not alien machines, but devices that looked almost familiar. The design was different from modern human technology, but the basic principles were recognizable. There were power sources, computer systems, and what appeared to be weapons. These aren't alien artifacts, Danny said, examining a device that looked like an advanced energy rifle. The way they're built, the materials they use, even the user interface design. It's all based on human thinking patterns. Amy ran genetic scans on organic residue found inside the machines. The DNA matches are even closer here. These machines were built by the ancestors of modern humans. Ben sat down heavily on a broken stone. The implications were staggering. We're not a new species trying to find our place in the galaxy. We're the descendants of the species that used to rule it. That explains why the aliens fear us, Amy said. We're not just another intelligent race to them. We're the return of their ancient enemies. Danny activated one of the ancient machines. It responded to his touch like it had been waiting for a human operator to return. Look at this, he said. The control system is intuitive for humans, but I bet no alien species could figure out how to use it. Because it wasn't designed for them, Ben realized. It was designed by humans for humans. All of this technology, everything we thought was alien advancement that we needed to catch up to. It's ours. It always was ours. Amy pulled up star charts on her portable computer. I've been tracking the locations of these ruins. They're not random. They follow the same expansion pattern that human colonies are using now. We're not exploring new territory. We're retracing the steps of our ancestors. The 3 scientists spent the next week everything they found. The evidence was overwhelming. Humans weren't newcomers to the galaxy. They were the return of its former masters. We need to get this information back to Admiral, Ben said. This changes everything about our situation. Does it? Amy asked. The aliens still want us dead. Knowing why doesn't change that. Danny looked up from the ancient machine he was studying. Maybe it does. These devices, this technology, what if it's not just historical artifacts? What if it's still functional? Ben walked over to examine the machine. It was clearly a weapon, designed for warfare on a scale that modern humans had never imagined. You think our ancestors left us tools to fight back? I think they knew this day would come, Danny said. The fire bearers were destroyed, but maybe they made preparations. Maybe they hid things for their descendants to find. Amy was running scans on other devices in the chamber. Some of these machines are still active. They're in some kind of sleep mode, waiting for the right signal to wake up. What kind of signal? Ben asked. Danny studied the readings on his scanner. Human genetic markers. These machines will only respond to human DNA. They're coded to recognize us as their rightful operators. Ben felt a chill run down his spine. The fire bearers hadn't just been destroyed by their enemies. They had been planning for their return. Hidden across the galaxy were the tools and weapons of humanity's ancestors, waiting for modern humans to find them and reclaim their birthright. We're not the weak species begging for acceptance, Ben said quietly. We're the heirs to the most powerful civilization the galaxy has ever seen. Amy nodded grimly. The question is, what do we do with that knowledge? Outside their camp, the alien stars looked different now. They weren't the lights of distant civilizations that had rejected humanity. They were the stars that had once belonged to humans and might belong to them again. President Laura Adams sat alone in her office on Earth, staring at the reports scattered across her desk. 3 months had passed since Ben Taylor's discovery on 442b. The evidence was clear. Humans were the descendants of the fire bearers, and their ancestors had left them gifts hidden across the galaxy. The door opened and Admiral Kate walked in. Behind her came Dr. Carl Brooks, Earth's leading genetic scientist. Both looked tired. They had been working around the clock on something called the Phoenix Project. Madam President, Kate said, we need to make a decision. The alien fleets are moving closer to our colonies. We have maybe 6 months before they attack. Laura nodded. She had read the intelligence reports. The Galactic Preservation Accord was no longer content to simply ignore humanity. They were preparing for war. A war to finish what their ancestors had started millions of years ago. Tell me about the Phoenix Project, Laura said. Carl opened his case and pulled out a data tablet. The genetic analysis from the ruins shows that modern humans are not complete. We're missing something that our ancestors had. The fire bearers possessed genetic traits that made them superior to other species. What kind of traits? Laura asked. Enhanced reflexes, improved spatial reasoning, better integration with technology. But most importantly, they had something we call the command gene. It allowed them to work together in ways that other species couldn't understand. Kate leaned forward. We've run simulations based on the genetic data. If we can reactivate these dormant genes in humans, we could level the playing field against the aliens. Laura felt a cold fear in her stomach. You're talking about changing what it means to be human. We're talking about becoming what humans were always meant to be, Carl replied. The process is reversible, at least in theory, but we need volunteers for the first trials. The door opened again and 2 people walked in. Nancy was a test pilot, one of the best in the human fleet. Hayes was a Marine sergeant who had served on the frontier colonies. Both had volunteered for the enhancement process. How do you feel? Laura asked them. Nancy smiled, but there was something different about her eyes. They seemed sharper, more focused. I feel awake for the first time in my life, like I was living in a fog before and now I can see clearly. Nodded. Everything makes sense now. I can see patterns in things that I never noticed before. When I look at tactical problems, the solutions just appear in my mind. Carl showed Laura the test results. Nancy's reaction time has improved by 40%. Her spatial awareness scores are off the charts. She can interface with ship systems in ways that seem almost telepathic. And combat effectiveness has increased by over 60%, Kate added. He's not just faster and stronger, he thinks differently. He can predict enemy movements and coordinate with his team without speaking. Laura studied the two enhanced humans. They looked the same on the outside, but something fundamental had changed. What about the psychological effects? Dr. Stone stepped forward. Laura hadn't noticed her enter the room. Was the project's psychologist, responsible for monitoring the mental health of the volunteers. There are changes, said carefully. The enhanced subjects show increased confidence and leadership tendencies. They're also becoming more territorial about human space. What does that mean? Laura asked. Nancy answered for herself. It means we're tired of running from aliens who should be afraid of us. Our ancestors ruled this galaxy. Why are we begging for scraps? His expression hardened. Every time I see reports about alien fleets moving toward our colonies, I want to do something about it. Not negotiate or retreat, fight. Laura felt a chill. How many volunteers do we have for the program? Over 10,000 applications in the first week, Carl said. Word is spreading through the military. Soldiers are requesting enhancement. Pilots, engineers, even civilian colonists want to join. Kate activated a holographic display showing the locations of human space. We've identified 37 ancient fire-bearer sites. Each one contains dormant technology that responds to enhanced humans. If we can activate even half of them, we'll have weapons and defenses that the aliens can't match. But there's a cost, warned. The enhanced humans are changing in ways we don't fully understand. They're becoming more aggressive, more willing to use violence to solve problems. Laura looked at Nancy and again, do you feel like the same people you were before? Nancy considered the question. I feel like myself, but more so, like all the limitations that held me back are gone. I feel like I was broken before, said, and now I'm fixed. A communication alert sounded. Kate activated the screen and Admiral Tony Mitchell appeared. He was commanding the defense of the outer colonies. Madam President, we have a situation. A patrol attacked one of our supply convoys near the system. They destroyed 2 cargo ships and killed 47 people. Laura felt anger rising in her chest. What was our response? Colonel Steve Martin was in the area with a squadron of enhanced pilots. They engaged the patrol. The screen switched to combat footage. Laura watched human fighters move through space with impossible precision. They anticipated every alien maneuver, coordinated their attacks perfectly, and destroyed the enemy force without taking a single loss. The patrol was completely eliminated, Tony continued. But that's not the important part. We intercepted their emergency transmissions before they were destroyed. They were screaming about the fire-bearers returning. Kate nodded grimly. The word is spreading through alien space. They know something has changed. Laura studied the combat footage again. The human pilots moved like they were part of their ships, like the boundary between human and machine had disappeared. How many enhanced humans do we have now? 300 in the first wave, Carl said. But the program is expanding rapidly. We should have over 5,000 enhanced humans within the next month. And they all show the same changes, the same improvements. The same improvements, yes, but also the same psychological shifts. They're becoming less patient with diplomatic solutions. Laura walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Millions of ordinary humans lived their lives, unaware that their species was about to transform into something their ancestors had been, something the galaxy feared. There's something else, Nancy said. When we interface with the fire-bearer technology, we can feel something, like there are messages waiting for us, instructions. What kind of instructions? Laura asked. His eyes grew distant. How to fight, how to win, how to reclaim what belongs to us. Laura turned back to face the group. The decision she made in the next few minutes would determine the future of humanity. They could continue as they were, a weak species hiding from alien threats, or they could become something that would make those threats irrelevant. Expand the program, she said finally. But I want monitoring protocols in place. If the enhanced humans start showing signs of losing their humanity, we shut it down. Kate saluted. Yes, Madam President. As everyone prepared to leave, Laura called out to Nancy and, one more question. If you had to choose between saving human lives and showing mercy to aliens, what would you do? Nancy didn't hesitate. Save human lives. The aliens made their choice when they decided to hunt us to extinction. Nodded in agreement. We tried peace. They chose war. Now they get to live with the consequences. After they left, Laura remained at the window. In the distance, she could see ships launching from the spaceport. Soon, those ships would carry enhanced humans to the stars. The galaxy had cast out humanity, fearing the return of the fire bearers. They were about to get exactly what they feared. Admiral Campbell stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the galaxy burn. 6 months had passed since the Phoenix Project began, and humanity was no longer the same species. Himself had been enhanced 3 months ago, and the change was beyond anything he had imagined. Admiral, we're receiving responses from all sectors, reported Commander Pierce from her station. Was also enhanced, and her ability to process information from multiple sources at once was remarkable. The message has been received by over 400 alien civilizations. Nodded, the message had been simple and direct. He had broadcast it across every inhabited system in the galaxy, speaking for all of enhanced humanity. You cast us out by the stars, fearing what we might become. Now witness what we have always been. The declaration of war had been necessary. The aliens had been preparing to attack human colonies, and the enhanced humans could not allow that to happen. More importantly, they would not allow it to happen. The old human instinct to seek peace and compromise had been burned away by the genetic awakening. Status report on the first wave attacks, ordered. Captain Nick appeared on the communication screen. His ship, the UES Vengeance, had just finished the assault on the. Nick's face showed the calm satisfaction of a job well done. Target neutralized, Admiral. The defense fleet was destroyed in 47 minutes. Their orbital stations are offline, and their planetary government has surrendered. Studied the tactical display. They had been one of the strongest members of the Galactic Preservation Accord. Their fleet had numbered over 800 ships. The fact that enhanced humans had defeated them so easily sent a clear message to the rest of the galaxy. Casualties asked. None on our side. The enemy lost approximately 600 ships and 12,000 personnel. Excellent work, Captain. Proceed to Phase 2. Turned to his tactical officer, Commander Peter Davis. Peter was coordinating the defense of human colonies against alien counterattacks. The enhanced humans had predicted that the aliens would try to strike back quickly, hopping to catch humanity off guard. Admiral, we're tracking a massive alien fleet approaching New Haven Colony, Peter reported. Over 3,000 ships from 17 different species. They're moving in formation, probably planning to make an example of us. Smiled. The aliens still thought like the old galaxy, where numbers and conventional tactics mattered. They had no idea what enhanced humans were capable of. How many defenders do we have at New Haven? 47 enhanced humans commanding a mixed fleet of 200 ships. The colony defense force has been upgraded with fire-bearer technology. Felt the familiar surge of confidence that came with the enhancement. The genetic modifications hadn't just improved human abilities. They had unlocked something deeper, a certainty that humans were meant to rule the stars. "Let them come," said. "It's time to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human colonies." The Battle of New Haven lasted 18 hours. Watched the tactical displays from his command ship, feeling proud of what humanity had become. The enhanced humans didn't just fight better than their ancestors. They fought smarter, with a level of coordination that seemed impossible. Peter's defense force turned the alien attack into a trap. Instead of trying to protect the colony, they allowed the enemy fleet to surround them. Then they activated the fire-bearer technology hidden in the system. Ancient weapons platforms came online, emerging from asteroid fields and dead moons where they had waited for millions of years. Energy weapons that could crack battleships in half opened fire on the alien fleet. The attackers found themselves caught between the human defenders and the awakened technology of the fire-bearers. "Enemy fleet is in full retreat," Peter reported. "We've captured over 400 alien ships intact. The rest are fleeing toward the Galactic Rim." Nodded, the captured ships would be useful. Enhanced humans could operate alien technology almost as easily as human equipment. It was another gift from their genetic heritage. "Sir, we're receiving communications from the captured alien crews," said. "They're requesting to speak with our commanders." "Put them through." The main screen showed a collection of alien faces, recognized species from across the galaxy, vegan and others. All of them looked terrified. "We surrender," said a captain. "We will leave human space and never return." Studied the aliens. A few months ago he might have felt pity for them. Now he felt only the cold satisfaction of victory. Surrender is not enough. You have spent centuries plotting the destruction of humanity. Now you will face the consequences. "What do you want from us?" asked the commander. "I want you to go back to your governments and tell them what you've seen. Tell them that the fire-bearers have returned. Tell them that humanity will no longer hide in the shadows while you plan our extinction." The aliens were silent for a long moment. Finally, the captain spoke again. "What happens to our crews?" "You will be returned to but your ships and their weapons will remain with us. Consider it payment for the decades of rejection and isolation you forced upon humanity." After the communication ended, turned to his staff. The enhanced humans around him showed the same calm confidence that he felt. They had just defeated the largest alien fleet ever assembled, and they had done it without breaking a sweat. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from across human space," said. "The enhancement program is expanding rapidly. Over 60% of the human population has now the genetic modification." Wasn't surprised. Word of the victories was spreading, and ordinary humans wanted to be part of the transformation. They wanted to feel the power and certainty that came with reclaiming their genetic heritage. "What about the unenhanced humans?" asked. Dr. Grace Lee, the expedition scientist, looked up from her data pad. "They're having difficulty adjusting to the new reality. Many feel left behind by the changes. Some are requesting immediate enhancement. And the others? They're afraid. They see the enhanced humans as different, almost like a separate species." Considered this. The genetic modification did create significant changes in thinking and behavior. Enhanced humans were more aggressive, more confident, and less willing to compromise. They saw problems in terms of solutions rather than negotiations. "The transformation is necessary," said. "Humanity tried peace for centuries. The galaxy responded with plans for our extinction. Now we give them what they actually fear." Commander Alex Turner entered the bridge. Alex led the special operations teams that had been infiltrating alien worlds. His missions weren't about sabotage or military targets. They were about psychological warfare. "Admiral, the infiltration missions are complete," Alex reported. "We've demonstrated enhanced human capabilities on 12 different alien." Results: panic, complete panic. The alien populations are demanding that their governments negotiate with us. They've seen what enhanced humans can do, and they want no part of a war they can't win. Reviewed the mission reports. Alex's teams had appeared in the middle of alien cities, performed impossible feats of technology and physical prowess, and then vanished. They left behind only the message: the fire bearers have returned. The psychological impact is greater than we expected, Alex continued. Alien society is breaking down. They're fleeing to the outer rim, abandoning their core worlds. Felt satisfaction at the news. Humanity had spent centuries being rejected and isolated. Now the aliens were experiencing the same fear and uncertainty that humans had endured. "Sir, we're receiving a priority communication from Earth," reported. President Laura Adams appeared on the screen. She looked older than remembered, and there was worry in her eyes. "Admiral, I need a full report on the current situation. The news reports are showing massive alien fleets in retreat, but I'm getting concerning reports about enhanced human behavior." Straightened. "Madam President, the military situation is completely under our control. Human colonies are secure, and alien forces are in full retreat." "That's not what I'm worried about," Laura said. "I'm getting reports that enhanced humans are taking over colony governments. They're pushing out unenhanced humans from leadership positions." Considered how to respond. The enhanced humans weren't taking over out of malice. They were simply better suited for leadership in the new galaxy. They could see solutions that unenhanced humans missed, and they weren't limited by the old fears and compromises. "Madam President, the enhanced humans are protecting human interests more effectively than previous administrations. The results speak for themselves." Laura's expression grew stern. "I need to know if you still consider yourself to be serving the human government, or if you see yourself as something separate." Looked around the bridge at his enhanced crew. They were all watching the conversation with interest. They knew, as he did, that humanity was changing into something greater than it had ever been. "I serve humanity," said finally. "All of humanity, but I serve the humanity that we're becoming, not the humanity that we were." The communication ended, leaving alone with his thoughts. The galaxy had cast out humanity, fearing the return of the fire bearers. Now their fears were becoming reality, and there was no going back. Admiral Miller stood on the observation deck of the UES Dominion, watching the surrender ceremony on what had once been the capital world of the Galactic Preservation Accord. 2 years had passed since humanity declared war on the galaxy, and the transformation was complete. Below them, the great domed city that had housed the alien alliance for thousands of years now flew human flags. Representatives from 43 different alien species knelt before enhanced human commanders, formally surrendering their governments and requesting permission to continue existing. "Admiral, the final count is in," reported Captain Foster from her position at the ceremony. Commanded one of the new fleets, her crew linked by technological interfaces that made them operate like a single mind. 17 alien civilizations have fled to the outer rim. 26 have surrendered completely. The remaining 4 have been eliminated. Nodded. The eliminated species had chosen to fight to the end rather than submit to human rule. It had been their choice, and enhanced humans had granted their wish for extinction with efficient thoroughness. Status of the human population: 87% enhanced as of this morning, replied. The remaining unenhanced humans are mostly concentrated on Earth and a few inner colonies. Felt the familiar surge of satisfaction that came with the genetic modification. The weak, rejected species that had once begged for acceptance among the stars was gone forever. In its place stood the rightful heirs of the fire bearers, reclaiming their ancient dominion over the galaxy. General Chris Baker joined on the observation deck. Chris commanded the ground forces that had taken control of the major alien worlds. Unlike the space battles, which had been decided quickly by superior human tactics and technology, the ground campaigns had required more time and patience. "How are the alien populations adjusting to human rule?" asked. "Better than expected," Chris replied. "Most of them are actually relieved. They spent so long fearing the return of the fire bearers that the reality is almost comforting. They know where they stand now." Studied the ceremony below. The kneeling aliens showed no signs of rebellion or resistance. They had accepted their new place in the galactic order with the resignation of a species that knew they had been outmatched in every possible way. "The labor integration programs are ahead of schedule," Chris continued. "Alien workers are proving quite efficient when properly motivated. They seem to understand that cooperation is their only path to survival." Dr. Green approached them from across the deck, led the team responsible for documenting the new galactic civilization that enhanced humans were building. His reports would become the historical record of humanity's transformation from outcast to overlord. "Admiral, I've completed the analysis of the colonial expansion data," said. "Human settlements now control 74% of the galaxy's habitable worlds. The remaining planets are either too remote to be worth claiming or have been designated as alien reservation zones." Reviewed the data on her personal device. The numbers were staggering. In just 2 years, humanity had claimed more territory than any species in galactic history. The fire bearers themselves had never controlled so much space. "What about the genetic enhancement program?" "The final phase is beginning," replied. "The few remaining unenhanced humans are being given a choice: accept enhancement or accept relocation to designated preservation areas." Felt a moment of something that might have been sadness. The old humanity, with all its weaknesses and fears, was disappearing. Soon there would be only enhanced humans, genetically perfected and united in their vision of human supremacy. President White appeared on his communication device. Was one of the last unenhanced human leaders, representing what remained of the old Earth government. She looked tired and defeated, like someone watching the end of everything she had once believed in. "Admiral Miller, I need to discuss the latest reports from the enhancement centers," said. "What concerns you, Madam President?" "The psychological evaluations show that the enhanced humans are developing even more aggressive tendencies than the earlier subjects. Dr. Stone's team is worried about what they're calling empathy degradation." Considered this. The enhanced humans did think differently than their unenhanced ancestors. They were more focused on results and less concerned with the feelings of those who stood in their way. But that wasn't degradation. That was improvement. "Madam President, the enhanced humans are simply more realistic about the galaxy we live in. The old human tendency to seek compromise and show mercy to enemies was a weakness that nearly led to our extinction." "But they're losing the ability to relate to unenhanced humans," protested. "The enhanced population sees us as inferior, almost like a separate species." Looked down at the surrender ceremony. Enhanced humans moved among the kneeling aliens with calm authority, showing neither cruelty nor compassion. They were simply efficient in their administration of the new galactic order. "Perhaps you are becoming a separate species," said quietly. "The galaxy forced humanity to evolve or die. We chose evolution." The communication ended, leaving alone with her thoughts. She walked to another window that showed the city's main plaza. Thousands of aliens worked in organized groups, rebuilding their city according to human specifications. Enhanced human supervisors watched from elevated platforms, ensuring efficiency and compliance. Captain Tony Mitchell joined her at the window. Tony commanded the fleets responsible for hunting down the alien governments that had fled to the Outer Rim. His ships were faster and more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen, powered by fire-bearer technology that enhanced humans had awakened across hundreds of worlds. "Admiral, we've located the last of the exile fleets," Tony reported. "They're gathered around a red dwarf star in the outer spiral arm. Should we pursue?" Considered the question. The exile fleets posed no real threat to human expansion. They were too few and too weak to challenge enhanced humanity's control of the galaxy. But they represented something dangerous, the possibility that other species might someday unite against human rule. Are they attempting to organize resistance? No, ma'am. They appear to be focused on survival, building colonies on marginal worlds, trying to maintain their civilizations in exile. Made her decision. The enhanced humans had learned from the mistakes of their fire-bearer ancestors. The original human civilization had been destroyed because they had allowed their enemies to survive and organize. Modern humanity would not repeat that error. "Eliminate them," she ordered. "All of them. The galaxy belongs to humanity now, and we cannot allow the seeds of future resistance to grow." Tony saluted and left to carry out his orders, remained at the window, watching the alien workers below. In a few hours, the last independent alien civilizations would cease to exist. The galaxy would finally be united under human rule. Dr. Grace Lee approached with the final population reports. Grace had been tracking the demographic changes across human space as the enhancement program reached completion. "Admiral, the transformation is nearly complete," Grace said. "Within 6 months, less than 1% of the human population will remain unenhanced. Those individuals will be relocated to Earth, which has been designated as a historical preservation zone." Nodded. Earth would become a museum, a place where future generations of enhanced humans could observe what their species had once been. The weak, frightened creatures who had begged for acceptance among the stars would be preserved like specimens, a reminder of how far humanity had evolved. What about the psychological integration studies? The enhanced humans show complete unity of purpose and exceptional cooperation when working toward common goals. However, they display marked indifference toward the welfare of unenhanced humans and aliens. Felt no concern about this development. The enhanced humans were simply being practical. In a galaxy where survival required strength and decisiveness, emotional attachments to inferior species were counterproductive. "The galaxy cast us out, fearing what we might become," said, repeating the words that had started the war. "Now they know, and it was everything they nightmared about and more." Grace looked out at the conquered city below. "Do you think our ancestors would recognize us?" Considered the question. The fire-bearers had been powerful, but they had also been divided by internal conflicts and limited by primitive technology. Enhanced humans had learned from those failures. They were united, efficient, and utterly committed to human dominance. "I think they would be proud," said finally. "We succeeded where they failed. We didn't just conquer the galaxy, we perfected it." As the sun set over the former alien capital, watched the last surrender ceremony conclude. The galaxy that had once rejected humanity now belonged to them completely. Every world, every resource, every surviving alien served human interests. The stars no longer cast out humanity. Humanity owned the stars, and they would never let them go again. The fire-bearers had returned, and this time, there would be no force in the galaxy capable of stopping them. The weak species that had once begged for acceptance was gone forever. In its place stood something magnificent and terrible, the rightful masters of the galaxy, finally home.